Hello everyone, and welcome to today's public TPC training webinar entitled Blending Virtual Instructor-Led and Self-Guided Online Training for Enhanced Digital Learning. My name is Ryan Smith, Product Manager with TPC Training here, and I'm also here with Tim Jacobs, our Vice President of Operations with TPC Training, and we're going to really walk you through the idea of blending these two online remote formats of training that offer really different things, pros and cons as well, and putting them together into an overall training package. That's our goal today. As we know, today's learning experiences are really going to be mostly remote. And so we really want to talk about what are some of the ways we can create a robust learning plan that covers all different types of learners and learning styles. So before we get into the kind of the meat and potatoes of this presentation, I really want to let you all know that this webinar is being recorded today. So this webinar recording will be sent to everyone on this webinar, all the registrants here, within 2 business days roughly of this webinar. Also, I want to let you know that these slides here are available as well. They're going to be sent to all the registrations of this webinar as well in PDF format. And then finally, this webinar is not pre-recorded, it is live right now in this moment here on May 28, 2020. So that means for those of you who are here live right now, welcome. It's good to have you here, and feel free to ask us questions. We love getting interactions on these webinars. So feel free to ask questions and curiosities about the ideas behind blending virtual instructor-led and self-guided online training. We'll be able to answer your questions as we finish up our presentation today, and we should have some great discussion between the two of us on this panel. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So what are we going to talk about today on the topic of blending virtual instructor-led and self-guided online training? Well, first, I think I want to really break down a comparison between the two formats and really what they have to offer. Virtual instructor-led versus self-guided online, they really offer two different things, two different experiences that can really play well with one another. So we want to talk about that. Then when should we pursue one versus the other, or maybe both? We're going to talk about that. And then building a curriculum program that blends them both together in different ways, and how that might work for your facility. One size might not fit all for that approach. Then we're going to have Tim Jacobs here tell us a little bit about how we can use a learning management system to track our employee learning progress using these different modes of both virtual instructor-led and self-guided formats. And kind of, because this can get complicated, you're going to see how these different learning paths can get to be multi-month, multi-year initiatives. And at that point, it's really going to be important to track progress. And then at that point, we're going to do some Q&A on this as well. So let's talk about virtual instructor-led. What exactly are we talking about here? And self-guided online, what are we talking about here? So we got virtual instructor-led training, and by that we mean really a live in-person connection with an instructor. You can see here, all the students are live, they're sharing their webcams, they're all interacting, asking questions. That's really what we're talking about here in terms of live virtual instructor-led training. And self-guided online being all about taking these online narrated self-guided modules that you can take at your own pace. So you don't have to spend a whole day with an instructor. You can take them at 30 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, an hour at a time to get through your training. And really you don't have to feel pressured to ask questions or anything and go at your own pace. So really there's the different formats here, and they each offer different things in terms of styles of learning. First, let's talk about virtual instructor-led. I want to just talk about these aspects here between these two formats. The tools you need to be successful in these formats, the interaction style, the time commitment required, the focus in terms of what we'll gain from each of these formats, and then the types of learners that really thrive in these formats. So let's start with the tools needed. So virtual instructor-led training, obviously you need a computer with internet, and then you need a webcam and a microphone to have the best possible experience. At that point, it becomes really simulating the virtual classroom. So it's like you're sitting in the same room with the instructor, but you don't have to be in the same room with the instructor technically. As long as you're able to interact, they can see your facial expressions, how you're reacting to some of the content. You can raise your hand, you can discuss how things work in your workplace, for instance, and you're really getting a direct connection there. Self-guided online training, you don't need the webcam and mic for this. You really just need your computer and your internet, and you're off to the races. And you can take that training on any device that you need, whether it be a mobile tablet or your cell phone or a computer. So you're already getting a taste for what the interaction might look like in each of these formats. So in the virtual instructor-led space, right, you have that live interaction with the instructor. So the discussions are happening, the questions are happening, and then the instructor's actually having the students go through exercises in this format as well. So it's like it's a live classroom here. And so if any one of you here are curious more about what virtual instructor-led training is, I want to let everyone know that this webinar is a series of webinars. So about 2 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago, we offered some other webinars really digging into virtual instructor-led training and what it is all about and what are some of the capabilities there in today's day and age for technical training. So if you want to learn more about kind of what these discussions and questions and exercises would look like, I really highly recommend you go to our webinar recording page and you take a look at them. Self-guided online training. So this is a whole different style of training where you can go at your own pace. You see narrated text with interactive videos representing each of the topics, and you can go back and re-watch that content and re-engage with that content as many times as you need to really get the concepts down. With regular quizzes and check-ins to gauge your knowledge and how well you're doing. And then these self-guided online formats come equipped with interactions of all kinds, including drag and drop interactions where you can drag and drop different things to the right place or try a simulated technical task in the self-guided environment. So it really offers a lot of great learning, just in a different type of pacing than virtual instructor-led. So how much time does it take? How much time do you have to set aside from your average busy workday to be able to do virtual instructor-led or self-guided, right? The toughest part about virtual instructor-led training is really the time commitment. You really need to set aside multiple hours at a very minimum. And usually a good class is going to be between 1 and 2 continuous 8-hour business days of solid training. So these can be split up, into 4-hour sessions or 2-hour sessions or whatever they might need to be. But really, to get a good grasp of a complex topic you're going to get training on, it usually takes a good amount of training in the instructor-led space. Whereas on self-guided, you can really get your training, these modules of, let's say, a basics of electricity course, or how to interact with people in a management environment, or all sorts of different safety topics. They could be 1 hour, they could be 30 minutes, they could be 10-hour courses. It really depends on the topic matter. But the good thing is you don't have to sit in front of your computer for 10 hours during self-guided online courses. You can really take them at your own pace here. So they're divided across any free available time that you have. So, a lot of companies we work with tend to do self-guided training at the beginning of their shift, let's say every Friday, or they have people just set a dedicated couple nuggets of time throughout their week to work on their training instead of having to take their entire time out of their regular daily activities and job tasks. So really, that's a whole different way, right? Self-guided online can be sprinkled continuously throughout someone's daily routine, where virtual instructor-led training really is a big event in a lot of cases, where people are coming in from different departments or an entire department and getting this training. So it really just is a different focus. Speaking of the focus, it's a different focus in terms of time commitment, right? But if you ask, what are you going to get out of self-guided online training in terms of, what are you going to come away with that you didn't have before? And with virtual instructor-led training, there's really not much to contrast here. You're getting the same kind of learning in just a different way. So basically, you're getting knowledge on basically why this needs to happen or that needs to happen in your job and how things work. And the skills, you can really demonstrate hands-on skills. And again, if you're skeptical about the idea of hands-on skills, we have a webinar about kind of building skills in a virtual environment. It is possible and it is happening. Self-guided online training as well. So you're getting knowledge and you're getting skills as well. Very practical, well-designed self-guided online formats allow you to not just kind of sit and listen to someone tell you something or watch a boring video like we saw back in the 4th grade days, but really intensive training oriented, job oriented, and job relevant information. So with that being said, you're probably already starting to formulate a use case, right? So when we might want to try virtual instructor-led training and when we might want to try self-guided online training. That's what we're going to discuss next. as we do, let's talk about the types of learners that might thrive in these environments. So if you're someone shy, for instance, right, or you're maybe a little bit reticent for interaction and piping up and asking questions, maybe the virtual instructor-led format isn't the ideal one for you, right? So types of learners are really more social in nature in terms of getting a lot out of instructor-led training. However, even the ability to just hear from directly from an expert, right, helps these type of learners. So the discussion, the collaboration, the social learning. Visual learning, right, so people who can see something demonstrated in front of them happens in the virtual classroom. And you can see in self-guided online, if you're a visual learner, you're going to benefit from self-guided online training as well. So many of you here who are in the learning industry might be familiar with the diagram that you see of the different styles of learning, right? There's visual, there's tactile learners who learn just by having their hands on something. There's people who really learn by talking things out, that's verbal learners. There's oral learners who learn by hearing things in auditory. And then there's logical learners who really want to take things step by step. And then each of those, tactile, visual, verbal, visual, oral, and logical, can be kind of split into a social category. So you learn in that way with people, or you learn in that way by yourself, and you really prefer to do it that way. And so for people who learn in a group, instructor-led training is probably best, where you can all collaborate with each other. And then in the self-guided online format, for people who really like to learn in a solitary format and really go at their own pace. So you can see that that's the slight difference there. However, there is a place for both, right? Because any given team of, let's say, 10 or more people will definitely get value from having both styles, because maybe 5 people on your team are social type of people and the other 5 are just as effective at their job, but they learn maybe in a more solitary format. So it'll be really good to blend these two together. And that's really kind of what we're talking about here. So let's just nail this home one more time about we should pursue virtual instructor-led training when, and we should pursue self-guided online training when, right? In terms of these two formats in our remote world. Learners desire more interaction. So when your learners desire more interaction or hands-on, quote unquote, activities for their training, virtual instructor-led training is the best way to go when you're pursuing remote learning. When learners thrive on asking questions, right? When they're very inquisitive and they want to interact and ask questions. When learners want to learn tricks of the trade directly from an expert who can tell them, the little things you can do about that kind of stuff, that's where virtual instructor-led training comes from, right? It's those experts telling you how to do stuff. And then you can pursue virtual if your organization is able to set aside dedicated time for all learners to be trained, right? They have a training day or a training week that they can set aside for any individual person. That's really the best way to pursue instructor-led training, is to kind of carve out the time for it. Now, pursuing self-guided online training is best when the learners have really busy schedules, right? Where they maybe have trouble setting aside those large chunks of time. That learners can only dedicate small amounts of time each day or week for training, and where they can basically just build it into their everyday routine. Learners prefer to learn at their own pace, right? So they're more solitary learners. We hear from time to time where people in our instructor-led courses, for instance, on our electrical training side, really feels that pressure to keep up with everyone else who might be more experienced in the matter. And that can cause some anxiety and stress in the classroom. So that is kind of goes away when we talk about self-guided online training. And that makes this format of learning very valid for individuals looking to learn in this kind of way. And then learners who prefer to have the option to repeat content. So, it's possible to repeat content, obviously, in the instructor-led course, but it's much more easy and streamlined if learners want to go back through stuff on their own and at their own pace to learn what they want to learn. But at the end of the day, why not both, right? I think we can see the value of having intensive hands-on interaction with an instructor online and self-guided online training where we can have modules of all sorts of types to complement that training we get in the classroom. So why not do both? Okay. So that's really what we're going to talk about next. We got virtual instructor-led, we got self-guided online. A lot of people we work with do one or the other, but why not both, right? So what we're talking about here is blending, right? Building a curriculum. That's really what it's all about. can't do really one all at the same time where you do an instructor-led and self-guided all at once, but you can have them as part of a path, part of a journey that people take in their building of a curriculum over a period of time. So the three things I want to talk to you about before we get over to Tim is the three schools of thought when it comes to blending curriculum together for virtual instructor-led and self-guided formats. One school of thought is using self-guided online training to reinforce the virtual instructor-led training. So by that I mean we can start with a big event like an introductory class on a topic, and you're getting lots of great information over this 2-day class. And then when you leave the classroom, we all know that that drop curve, right? The curve that shows the drop off and people's retention of knowledge after they leave the classroom, which could go down to as low as 10% of what they learned in the classroom is retained. Well, we know that the learning industry is focused now that if you reinforce the content that we learn in the classroom by repeated little bursts of learning, that can increase the retention just so much more. So classroom, introduction, and then throughout, let's say, the following weeks and months, we can take these self-guided online training modules, let's say 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours of time over the course of months to really reinforce this information. So the benefits of this approach, the features here is that it keeps concepts fresh, right? It keeps that retention from dropping off over time after leaving the classroom. And it really keeps employees continuously learning over a longer period of time. Instead of, just that one burst of information and, well, that was fun, I'm not really going to use it very much. It's getting, a continuous demonstration of why this content was relevant to their jobs. Okay. Another way is kind of to flip this on its head in the opposite direction, right? To use virtual instructor-led to reinforce self-guided training. Right? And by this way, I mean, we take a series of self-guided modules to get ourselves introduced to a topic, let's say the concepts of how electricity works or the concepts of what current and voltage are in our electrical space. And then we all come to the classroom now that we're better prepared in the topic and that we know a little bit more about the topic. We're going to get into the classroom and really discuss and have more intensive discussions about the topic now that we've all taken these self-guided modules leading into it. In this format here, you can kind of see the benefits of that too, right? People come to class prepared with some background on the subject, so we can really take that, as you know, highly precious time off of their regular day-to-day jobs to get a really high value classroom experience. And then what's really great about a classroom experience, especially when people come to the camera with their own stuff with them, right? So let's say they come with their own electrical meter, or they come with their own screwdrivers, or in the technical space, right? Or if they come with just their own things that they've been wondering about as they took these self-guided online training modules. Now it's their chance to ask those questions and to get those answers in the classroom and really verify the skills from the employer perspective on, are these people learning from these self-guided modules what they need to learn? Well, let's reinforce that in the classroom. Maybe have them do some activities and exercises. Or, right, for given topic matters, maybe we just dedicate selected topics for each format. So maybe it's not best to have a topic where you do self-guided online training and then a classroom for the same topic. Maybe we just do all self-guided for a certain topic and we do all instructor-led for other topics. And at that point, we can have a really great blend of taking, let's say, a self-guided course for topic A, and then a classroom course for topic B, and then self-guided for topic C and classroom for topic D. And it goes on and they kind of play ball back and forth for different styles of learners. This has really great value, especially for topics that really need to be more, hands-on and interactive with an instructor. We can dedicate to classroom classes where maybe topics who can really just get for, let's say, compliance or for safety or for just getting some of the background information on something can be better for self-guided. It really depends on the employer here. So yeah, those knowledge-based topics are great for self-guided courses because, hey, why does that happen again? Let me watch that back and make sure I really understand this topic. And then when I get to the classroom, I'll know what I'm talking about. So you might say, well, which one should I use then? Should I use this first one? Should I use this second option? Or should I use this third option? And I unfortunately can't give you a great answer because these three are all great options for blending self-guided and instructor-led courses together. But what I can do is share with you some of the work we've done a little bit on what we call custom learning paths or curriculum pathways for different people, right? So obviously we're in the training industry. We need to know how to go from one topic to the next to continue to build people's skills for certain jobs. So here's one way we could put together self-guided and virtual instructor-led courses into a comprehensive path. And this one I'm about to show you is for a qualified electrical worker. So this is basically someone who's going to be expected to work on live electrical circuits and troubleshoot live electrical circuits in their facility. So you can see here, this is a recommended curriculum path that we offer because we can't really force people to take different trainings from the learning side of things. But what we can say is based on what we've seen at your facility and based on what we're consulting you through, here's what we're seeing is your pathway for your folks to get through their series of courses. So what you see here is there's an instructor-led training offering here, and here is the way to reinforce that with self-guided online training. Okay, so basically fundamentals of general maintenance. Here's the different levels. So we can see level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4 in this curriculum path. So basically as people get through each of these levels, they'll advance either in, let's say, status at their company, they'll advance in pay raise, they'll advance in job role title, maybe they'll go from technician 1 to technician 2, or to technician 2 to junior to senior technician, for instance, those kind of things. Really, this is where it all becomes up to the employer to set up these types of pathways. So you can see, let's say, fundamentals of general maintenance and troubleshooting essentials, which talk in a more discussion-based format about how to do the maintenance job, how to read schematics, how to work with hand tools and that kind of stuff. And then you can see down here, we can take some self-guided online training on reading blueprints and reading schematics and understanding how to do some math in the plant and how to make measurements and use hand tools. So basically you're learning how to do it in the classroom, and then you're going online, or the employer might want to say, all right, I'm going to have them take this hand tool thing so that when they get into the classroom, they can really ask those questions. And they can do it the other way. They'll take this hand tool one, they'll take these reading blueprints modules, and then they'll go ahead and finish it up with taking the classroom experience. It really is good to have that flexibility, so we're not locked into only one rigid way of learning. Obviously, people learn in different ways, so the learning industry needs to be flexible on adapting to different styles of learning as well. You can see here we're getting more into specialized. So this is what any technician needs to take over here, level 1. And level 2 will take us over to more electrical specific and specialized courses, and then to more advanced, and then specialization paths where they can specialize in generators or variable frequency drives or PLCs or motor circuits, for instance. So there's a lot of different stuff. You can see we couple formal on-the-job training at a certain point when they get to, let's say, intermediate level. Now it's time to test your metal and really do some on-the-job training with some of our stuff. So really, the imagination is the limit here. And really what I say is, this curriculum path is up to you as the employer to say what you value, what you don't value in terms of topic matters that you want to go through for your folks, whether you want it to be more self-guided, more instructor-led. Just know that there's different styles of learners, and you want to try to meet those different styles for each team that you're on. So that's really just a little breakdown of self-guided and virtual instructor-led training and how it can all come together. This path, right? This can be multi-month, right? For each level, multi-year over the course of this whole program to get to level 4, right? So it's not just, you're going to take all these classes in a month and it's over. It's usually a longer period than that, right? So because of that, it can be hard to track. Let's say one person's getting through this fundamentals of general maintenance and they're just taking a little extra time to get it through the self-guided courses, whereas person B is already on level 2 and getting on to level 3, right, over the course of, let's say, a year. So when this kind of stuff happens, it's going to be really important to track progress of different learners through the different styles of training, and to be able to understand how to track, how to report, and how to how to just manage this overall training of multiple people. So that's really where learning management comes into play. And this is going to be crucial as we move to remote learning for larger organizations, is how do we manage our learning? So a lot of us are using learning management systems in certain forms and fashions out here, but I really want to give some best practices of the learning management system. How do we keep track of our learning progress? And basically, what are some best practices that are crucial to success of a learning management system? So without further ado, I'm actually going to go ahead and hand this over to my colleague here, Tim Jacobs, and he's going to walk us through a learning management system, all of the different bits and pieces of that system and how it comes together. So this is really, again, focused for people who are on the employer side of things, who are going to be making good on some of these learning management trends. So Tim, take it away. It's all you, sir.
Great. Thank you very much, Ryan. Hopefully everybody can see my screen okay. As Ryan mentioned, yeah, you know, when you start getting into some of these blended curriculum and blended curricula, it tends to get to be a fairly long process, right? It's not just a month or 2 months that somebody's going to be taking training. It could be, as Ryan mentioned, months or years or whatever the case may be. And so obviously in order to be able to track that, that progress of an individual through that curriculum, you need something to be able to do that. You know, really gone are the days, or at least should be gone are the days of tracking these on Excel spreadsheets or on pieces of paper, right, in somebody's file folder, etc. And the use of learning management systems obviously is kind of the way that most of the organizations that we talk to and work with are kind of tracking these different types of programs. I'm going to log into the TPC learning management system, and the TPC learning management fusion, you know, has a learning management system component. It's also you know, more of a launching page to launching pad, I should say, to some of our other different types of applications as well around workforce management and test creation, etc. But we're going to focus really on the learning management side today. And in order to do that, I'm going to talk about 3 kind of components of this learning management system. That is the courses, the programs, and events. When I talk through those, it's kind of, this is how we would create this curriculum that Ryan has created here. And I'm going to focus on really just the kind of level 1 of the qualified electrical worker program that Ryan was showing earlier. And we're going to do that by combining courses. Courses are really just a list of all the courses that are available within your particular tenant, and events. And events are created to be able to track offline or online virtual instructor-led activities that aren't really managed, that aren't really taken through the learning management system, but to be able to track those so that you can show completion within, you know, larger curriculum and show progress throughout that particular path. And we're going to do that through the use of programs. And I've actually started to create a program here that we're calling the Qualified Electrical Worker Program. This is just level 1 of that program. But really what it does is, as you can see, it's going to show the fundamentals of general maintenance, which was one of the instructor-led training classes that Ryan was pointing out earlier, and troubleshooting essential skills, another one of those virtual or instructor-led training classes. And we've kind of added these as kind of bookends. Again, as Ryan mentioned, you can put these in whatever order you feel is best complements your users, your students. How do you feel they're going to learn best? Whether that's by taking a virtual instructor-led training class first and then going through a few courses, that maybe taking that troubleshooting essential skills class that's in the virtual setting and taking a few more self-study courses. However you want to set that up, you can. I just chose to set this one up with kind of the bookend virtual instructor-led training classes shown there. So this is great. This is how you would create that program. And within that program now, you have the ability to assign this program to anybody that you have within the learning management system. And I've got 2 options, whether I want this program to have to be taken in sequence. So in order for somebody to progress from one course to the other and to the other, they have to finish the course prior. Or I can create this as kind of an open navigation program where we want to give them the ability that, you know, they have to complete all these courses to finish the program, but we want them to be able to take the courses in whatever order they feel necessary. So really a couple options there. This is all well and good, and this is kind of from the admin side what you would see and how you would set up the program. But what I want to do now is actually show you what it looks like from a student perspective. So I'm going to log out as that administrator, and we're going to log in as a student. And when I log in as that student, I'm going to go to this program, and here it is. Here's my qualified electrical worker program. I'm going to select continue, and that's going to show you my progress. So you can see that, that I've completed this fundamentals of general maintenance virtual instructor-led training class. I've attended the class either virtually or in that classroom setting. And I've already started to get through 101 Reading Blueprints, which is my first course within that curriculum. And you can see as I start to expand some of these lessons, you can see the progress that I've taken. So not only from an administrator can I take a look and track where my students are progressing and how far they are within this curriculum and how long it's taking them, et cetera. But as a student, I also have the ability to go in and see where I'm at in progress, see what's next, get myself prepared, et cetera. So just wanted to give you that quick little kind of view from a learning management system perspective as to why it's important to be able to track this. Again, historically we've worked with a number of individuals, number of organizations that have tracked this on spreadsheets or on paper that's in somebody's file folder within the organization. But really the use of learning management systems allows you to deliver that self-study training, as well as be able to track and deliver some of that virtual instructor or instructor-led training all within the same system. So instead of having to log into different places or go to spreadsheets or paper to be able to track it, you've got a learning management system that gives you the ability to track all of that information. So Ryan, that's just that quick overview there. I'm going to give that back, the share back to you now.
All right, thanks so much, Tim. And I am coming back to our presentation here. And basically, that is all we wanted to show you today, all, is just a little rundown of some of the virtual options that are out there for training and how to play around with them. So really, this kind of opens up for our Q&A session now. And we got a couple questions here, I think, Tim. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at what we got. Let's see. So some folks are doing some training of automation and robotics, and this is a perfect way to say, okay, here are some of the basics behind, let's say, electricity and how it flows throughout things, and how mechanics work, and then really get into the classroom, let's say, for that automation to say, here's kind of how to bring it all together from an expert in that industry, for instance. That's a great idea. This is a great one. Someone's environmental health and safety manager cites that instructor-led training is required for OSHA expectations because they require the participant to ask questions in the moment. And that's absolutely right. So there is some new exceptions coming out that you might want to be aware of in the NFPA 70E document, which is the one that at least covers the electrical side of training, that they do recognize virtual as one of the ways to continue to get instructor-led training. But yeah, self-guided online training still it takes a little bit of more than that to meet OSHA's requirements for making sure people can get that feedback and ask questions before they get in there and put themselves at risk in the electrical panel. Absolutely. Let's see. And just to let you all know that there's some good questions here coming in about, technical skills and that kind of stuff, and automation and environmental health and safety. I keep saying hazards, environmental health and safety. So this is a series again. So there's a lot of great content out there from our library here about building skills in a virtual format and how to really do these kind of technical tasks in a virtual format. So take a look at that. There's also another one that comes about basically virtual versus in a live instructor-led in person, right? A lot of people kind of are skeptical about, can we really do this hands-on, quote unquote, learning in a virtual environment? And I want to encourage you to take this course and watch back this webinar to see really what is possible in a virtual environment. Can our content be deployed through our company's LMS? Let's see, or through a customer's individual LMS. So I take it this person who's taking the training. I'll ask this one to you, Tim. So let's say, can our content at TPC training be deployed through another company's LMS? And usually, how does that work in terms of taking individual content and porting it to another LMS?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we work with a number of organizations where we kind of, as you mentioned, filter the training or launch the training through an organization's kind of corporate learning management system. We do that via SCORM integration and or AICC integration, depending on what is needed, what works best with the company's learning management system. So yeah, we can absolutely allow for the loading and launching of the content through through a corporate learning management system to kind of then take that individual into that course within the TPC environment. So absolutely, we do it all the time.
Absolutely. And really, content is content. So, TPC is a content company as well as a technology company. So as long as, you subscribe to our content, we'll be able to get that content in a form that works for you, for sure. So could you give an example? And this is something I can help with. Someone asking, how do we take attendance for virtual training? That's a great question. So basically, what we've done is we've taken our virtual training platform that we use, which is Zoom, and we've been able to partner with them to the point where we can see whoever registers for one of our classes also signs up for that Zoom meeting. So we can see who's all registered. And then we have a feedback mechanism through email and through a direct line to our operations team, where if someone didn't show up, they just send a quick message or a quick email to that person, and we can track the attendance that way. Also, certain providers also provide attendance reports as well, and so that's pretty much automated at this point. And then our operations team can go in and see who's attended or not attended that course. And what's really cool is that you can also track the results of those attendance reports in your learning management system to see whether this person attended or did not attend those courses based on the attendance. So that's really good question. Got a good one here for you, Tim, and this is how are assessments and tests used and done in the self-guided online training to make sure it was effective, and also in the virtual instructor-led training side of the business?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, on both sides of the business, assessment and testing is and can be extremely important, right? On the self-study classes, generally there, at least with the TPC content, there's going to be a pre-test quizzes built into each one of the lessons and a post-test. So you've got the testing that's all included. Testing you on the theories that have been learned throughout that entire course, as well as the ability to create tests to be added at the end of a virtual instructor-led training class, right? So you saw earlier when I was showing one of the fundamentals of general maintenance as an event. Within the Fusion platform, we actually have the ability to create a test and attach that test as another activity within that event. So you could test on even the content that was covered in the virtual instructor-led training side of things. So absolutely, very important part of the process.
Absolutely. These are some great questions coming in. Um, this is a great one here. How do you identify what type of learner an individual is, right? How do we know they're a social learner versus a, individual learner, or how do we know whether they're visual versus auditory versus any other thing? And this person's suspicion is right, and that is it okay to send them a survey prior to the class to try and identify so the individual can be placed properly? And absolutely, that's a great approach. Basically, learning directly so you can learn from them as much as they can learn from you type of deal, where if you get that communication in place where you're asking them directly, either through an in-person meeting or through a survey to say, hey, how do you prefer to get training? Would you prefer to be in a classroom? Would you prefer to learn at your own pace in just small chunks of time? Would you, prefer this versus that in terms of your training? Do you learn by seeing pictures or videos, or would you rather someone really show you how to do it in person, kind of thing? And then that can really help guide what will work for your people and not. And that's what kind of this blended approach does, is it offers the flexibility of switching things up from time to time for the approach to how the training is given. So that's a really great question. I'd say I'm a huge proponent of surveys as a product manager whose my job hinges on surveys in a lot of ways, of how our customers respond to our training, what kind of value they perceived of our classroom experience, and how to make it better. So sometimes it can be a little bit scary to survey because you never know what the responses will be, but hey, you learn from the folks who work under you just as much as they can learn from you. So absolutely, great question. So got a couple more here, Tim. It looks like, let's see. How do we know which courses are self-led versus virtual-led? Usually they're clearly denoted. And again, if you need to know which are which, you can definitely give us a call in terms of our library here. Pretty much all of our topic matter is offered in both. So we are pretty much a fully blended. There's a couple topics here and there in our catalog that are, maybe more specialized that are offered in one or the other, but for the most part, at least on our side, we try to have an offering for both instructor-led and virtual instructor-led and self-guided online formats for those types who want to learn in different forms. So is the electrical program a blend? So this electrical program we showed you here, I'm going to bring us back to it for a second here. This one is a blend of virtual and self-led training. And the question being, can the whole program be available in virtual? And the answer is yes. So basically, any employer, whoever they may be, can take this recommended path, right? So I'm going to see if I can do a little markup here if possible. Let's see. I can use my pen. So basically, this is recommended to the point where you can take it or leave it in terms of any piece of this. So let's say people say, you know what, I don't want to take this class. I think they already know enough about it, and I'll combine these, or maybe I'll just do this. Actually, better yet, here's what we really see. People say, no, I don't need the regular electrical troubleshooting. My people are more advanced. I just want to do the advanced electrical troubleshooting. And, we're not inspectors, so we're not doing the code class. So we're going to cut that out. And then you're really paring this down to what you need on the instructor-led side. And you say, you know what, I don't need this class. They don't need to do math. Okay, they don't need to know about, chemical hazards. We don't have chemicals. We're not dealing with metals and yada, yada. And then you can start paring this down to the point where maybe you can even say, you know what, we're just going to do a classroom experience for the fundamentals, and we'll get into maybe the self-guided online courses in level 3. Really, it all depends on what you need, and there's no hard and fast requirement of how to get skills and knowledge per se in the electrical field in particular. It just says that you need the skills, the knowledge, and the safety training. And how do you know when enough skills, knowledge, and safety training have been given to the people to make sure they're qualified for their job? Well, unfortunately, the answer lies with the employer. That's you. I'm putting it back on you all as the employers of your folks. It's all completely up to you on whether they meet the criteria for your workplace. So if you're not sure what your qualification requirements are, let's say for electrical or mechanical or management or any other job role from A to B, it would really be in your best interest to list out what some of these qualification requirements are. And I will I'll put it out there because, I talk a lot about it. Our webinars. So about three months ago, we did a webinar on how to build a qualified worker program in your facility for both electrical and HVAC technicians to start with, but there's also just in general. Take a look at that. There's really some really good best practices of what kind of documentation you'll need and how to get yourself there. Let's see, do we offer completion certificates? Absolutely, for both the self-guided and virtual. It's in the best interest for any training organization to be able to provide a documented proof that you took that class and for how many hours that class was taken for. So for use of potential continuing education units in your own state, potentially, depending on the state, and just for your documentation for OSHA purposes and for compliance purposes. So yes, absolutely we do. On our end, that's a big part of what we do. How are homework problems? Let's see, grading and reviewing of homework problems incorporated into training. That's a really good question. So there are things called, study guides that we offer in our instructor-led courses, particularly when you're going to take, for instance, this guy here, I'm going to circle on my screen, the certification test for our arc flash electrical safety. That could require some preparation and some studying, and just to make sure you're okay. You definitely take the class, but then being ready for that official test on the matter can take some additional materials. So we got study guides that you read and you make sure you can get the answers to the questions there, and kind of as a take-home assignment. that kind of stuff. So yeah, handouts are usually used for homework purposes, but there's all sorts of ways to do homework. And in fact, self-guided online training can be done at home, just like we're all working in a lot of ways from home right now. So there's a lot of ways to do homework and that kind of work, and either handouts, self-guided online training modules can be your own version of homework and that kind of stuff. So yeah, basically like you'd expect from any type of homework here. Here's a great question. I'll hand this one over to you, Tim. I think this is one of our last questions today before we wrap it up for now, and that is, does TPC training only work with companies that want to train their employees, or can a person sign up to an individual course to get the training kind of for themselves? And then again, yes, we do provide that certification. I would answer that second question. We absolutely do. But Tim, on the idea of kind of company level versus an individual level, how would that work?
Yeah, certainly. So, yeah, the answer is definitely both, right? So we definitely provide provide the training for the content for larger to smaller organizations and their training that needs to be done at their facilities or within their entire corporation. But we also have a number of kind of single users, right, that are accessing our content because they want to take 101 reading blueprints, and they want to just up their skill on basic hand tools, or on maybe an area that maybe they don't have as much experience on, and feel like gaining experience and that would help them in their job. So yeah, we certainly through tpctraining.com, you have the ability to purchase single accesses to any one of the courses on the self-study side, and through live.tpctraining.com, an individual can go and certainly register themselves for any of the instructor-led or virtual instructor-led training courses that we offer.
Definitely. When it comes to these learning resources, we're getting a great question here on what are some things that learners can take with them when their training is over, like learning resources that can be downloaded, let's say from the virtual instructor-led trainings and that kind of thing. What we usually take our learners away from is not huge books, full of just hundreds of pages of content and that kind of stuff. It's more streamlined material that they take with them, downloadable and usually PDF format through these classes. Streamlined workbooks where we fill in throughout the class different fill in the blank activities. And then what we're also doing is providing them with what we call reference guides that can be folded, basically printed out in 6 pages, really quick, easy to reference 6 fold out pages here. So we mail those to each of the people, and we also provide them a PDF to download if they desire. But we actually do send them in print at this time, because print having something in people's hands, again, it's the type of learner, right? Do they learn by looking at a screen, or do they learn by having something in their hand? I bet you'll see there's a hot debate about the both, and we at TPC are in that debate all the time of, do we offer things in print, or do we offer things just online only? So print is still here to stay in terms of people really needing something tangible in their hands. And yes, absolutely, in Spanish. Some of our courses are offered in Spanish, and it's going to be a way of the future for sure. Mostly in the self-guided online format, but we also have some Spanish-speaking instructors on our instructor-led side that we have available to do some of our courses. So definitely call this number if you have any more questions about just what virtual training might be. This is our main line, and we have a bunch of people. You might even end up talking to me or Tim about some of this stuff. So feel free to give us another call. And this has been just a really great session. Thank you, Tim, for being here and helping us discuss all the best practices here behind blending virtual and instructor-led training. And again, if anyone here has any further questions or want to learn more about the topics, take a look back on our recorded webinars page on our website, tpctraining.com. There's a bunch of stuff over the last 3 years that we've done on this topic. So a lot to learn there, and a lot to show your colleagues. We highly recommend you show your colleagues some of these if you feel like they might get some benefit from this. And then just shoot us a call if you have any more questions about it. There's only so much we can get to in an hour of your time, but thank you for being here, and we will see you next time on our next webinar. We definitely plan on having more of these, especially as the curiosity around virtual training is peaked. We want to make sure to share some of those best practices. So thank you all for being here, and have a great day.